Here.
Councilmember Percival.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Brown.
Here.
Mayor Wright.
Here. Now, if you'll stand for the invocation and pledge of allegiance, the invocation will be given by Bill Heller from the Hemet San Jacinto Interfaith Council.
Good evening. In this moment now, we take a moment to pause and reflect and know of God's loving presence working in and through each one of us. Let us be open to that insight, those gifts that we find that from our heart bring forward the difference that each of you make. We are grateful to know what is unfolding here. We trust and have the deepest faith that all is well. And so it is. Amen.
Please join me in honoring our flag of our nation, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I get a report from closed session, please?
Mayor, I'd be happy to do that. There was one item on the closed session agenda for this evening. It was a conference with legal counsel with regard to one item of litigation, anticipated litigation. We had a briefing from special counsel, but there was no reportable action on this item. Thank you.
Now we have presentations, 3 of them as a matter of fact. And the first one will be a proclamation proclaiming April 29th, 2019 as Arbor Day. I'd like to invite Public Works Director Jensen to accept that proclamation. It's an annual thing.
It is. So, and I forgot my glasses, so we'll do the best we can. Okay.
City of Hemet Proclamation, April 9th, 2019. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees. And this holiday, called Arbor Day, was the first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska. And Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and world. And trees can reduce the erosion.
Giving emissions.
Erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce life-giving oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource, giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of the business areas, and beautify our community, and we have plenty of trees, known as the City of Trees. And whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. Now, therefore, I, Bonnie Wright, along with the City of Hemet Council, proclaim April 29, 2019 as Arbor Day.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
And good evening, Council. Thank you, Mayor. Just if I may share for the public, we will be holding our Arbor Day celebration. We'll be planting a Chinese pistache tree at Gibble Park at 4 o'clock on Monday the 29th in celebration. And that's where we'll be holding our regularly scheduled Park Commission meeting. And so anybody that wants to join us out there is welcome to. Hopefully we'll have a beautiful day. As much as we need the rain, it's nice when it doesn't rain on that day. So, and it is our 32nd year as a Tree City USA. So we're in good shape.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Now, the next 2 proclamations are proclamation proclaiming the week of April 7th to the 13th, 2019, as National Library Week, and Tuesday, April 9th, 2019, as National Library Workers' Day. In addition, the next proclamation will be proclaiming April 2019 the City of Hemet Volunteer Month. And so I'd like Linda as the liaison for the library board to come up and present these as well. So we have Kathy Haynes. Well, you have one volunteer's going to come up. But I'll let her read because without glasses, it's really difficult for me. Okay. This is a proclamation of City of Hemet. Whereas libraries are part of the American dream, places for opportunity, education, self-help, and lifelong learning. And our nation's public, academic, school, and specialized libraries help people change the world. And whereas libraries play a vital role in providing millions of people with the resources they need to live, learn, and work in the 21st century. And whereas librarians and library support staff bring the nation a world of knowledge in person and online, as well as personal service and expert assistance in finding what is needed when it is needed. And whereas it is important to recognize the unique contributions of all library workers and the value to individuals and society of those contributions. And whereas awareness and support must be increased for libraries, librarians, and library workers by raising their visibility in a positive context and by communicating clearly and strongly why libraries are both unique and valuable. Now, therefore, I, Bonnie Wright, there you go, Mayor of the City of Hemet, along with the entire City Council, do hereby proclaim the week of April 7th to the 13th, 2019, National Library Week, and Tuesday, April 9th, 2019, as National Library Workers' Day. I encourage all in this community to take advantage of the variety of library resources available and to thank our library workers for their exceptional contributions to American life. So, Kathy, you're it.
No, actually, it's senior librarian. Okay.
Well, actually, I think the chief should come up because he has volunteers as well.
Oh,
Come on on. Come on up, Chief.
Don't make me do this.
Who else? What other departments have a lot of volunteers?
It's just us today.
I'm looking. Department head. Well, come on up here. Fire department, do you have volunteers?
We do. I'm going to take a picture real quick and then I'll show my round ticket.
Very good. Okay, so another City of Hemet proclamation. Whereas one of America's greatest national resources is its volunteers and the human resources they devote toward a healthy, productive, and human society, and whereas each year thousands of volunteers contribute to the betterment of their communities, and whereas volunteers give freely of their time, energy, and ability, and ask only for a smile and a thank you for their countless hours of service. And whereas it has long been a tradition in our community for men and women volunteers to perform work of the highest quality and to brighten the lives of others. Now, therefore, I, Bonnie Wright, Mayor of the City of Hemet, along with the entire City Council, do hereby proclaim the week of April, or the month of April 2019 as the City of Hemet Volunteer Month. So it takes great pleasure in honoring the volunteers of the City of Hemet Library and all of our other department volunteers and convey our sincere gratitude and appreciation for their dedicated efforts. Now it's photo time.
yeah.
And we do value all of our volunteers and what they do for the city because especially, well, in all departments, but the number of volunteers we have in the police department is incredible. And
Over 80.
yeah,
That's awesome. Thanks. I'm just bending.
and we greatly appreciate all their efforts. So thank you for reading that.
So
And thank all of our volunteers.
Well, this is even tough. Okay, now going on to city council business. The following consent calendar items are expected to be routine in nature. They will be acted upon by the city council at one time without discussion. Any council member, staff member, or citizen may request removal of an item from the consent calendar for discussion. Sarah, do we have anybody who wants, any public? Do we have any staff members wishing to pull anything? No? Do we have any council members wishing to pull anything?
Yes,
Okay.
number 10.
Anyone else?
That was the one I was going to pull.
Okay. So I need a motion to approve items 6 through 9.
So moved.
Have a second. Please vote. And that passes unanimously 5-0. Number 10.
Madam Mayor, Council, good evening. A little hoarse, but I'll try to work through this. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to come up and briefly speak about National Crime Victims' Rights Week. This was an item that Councilmember Brown asked me to bring forward a month ago. So I wanted to put it on the agenda to mainly talk specifically about our partnership with some of our local advocates. CASA, Gail's here. I'm gonna ask Gail to come up for a second from CASA, the Center Against Sexual Assault. They're one of our partners here in town that not only deal with sexual assault, but also with many crimes involving children and domestic violence. Their advocates do an awesome job assisting us and helping us get the victims the care they need, but also into the criminal justice system. Also, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the District Attorney, Michael Hestrin, and his Victim Services Unit that we work with on a daily basis. They are a top-notch team. They do offer stellar service, really walk the victims and the victims' families through the court process, advocate for them the entire way. They do a superb job for our county. But the reality is I really wanted to remind everyone about 2 events this week that are scheduled. April 10th, 7 to 10 at Palm Desert Civic Center in Palm Desert is a candlelight vigil for the week, the Victims' Rights Week, and also a follow-up April 11th, 7 to 10 at Riverside County Historic Courthouse, another candlelight vigil. If you've never been to that event, it's something to see. The district attorney takes the lead. They run the vigil, do a really good job. There's the memorial wall down there for the victims. So I think if you have time, please calendar those items and see if you can join in celebrating National Victims' Rights Week. I would appreciate that. Gail, do you want to come up and say a few things?
Mayor Wright, Mayor Pro Tem Brown, members of the City Council. My name is Gail Hepner. I'm the Executive Director of CASA, and I want to thank Rob for asking me to be part of this presentation tonight. I kind of dropped the ball on a number of potential proclamations for this month and promise that next year I'll be a little bit more in tune to timing. Also, there used to be 3 candlelight vigils. There was one held in Temecula, Murrieta, and if that continues to be kind of off the calendar, I'd like to propose that we consider something here in the Valley for next year, and I'll actually plan in advance. So normally when I come up and speak to you, I'm usually talking about victims of sexual assault, since we were founded as a rape crisis center, and April actually is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. As Chief Webb has shared with you, CASA provides services to victims of crime, and not just sexual assault, but domestic violence, human trafficking, and child abuse. And I want to speak briefly about the most vulnerable victims that we serve, which is our children, because April also is Child Abuse Prevention Month. Every minute in America, a child is reported abused or neglected. 1 in 10 is born addicted to drugs. 1 in 5 is sexually assaulted. 500,000 children are reported abused in California each year. Every day in California, at least one child dies as a result of abuse or neglect. Hearts are broken, hopes are destroyed, and the promise of a future is lost. In a study that was sponsored by the Centers for Disease Control, the doctors discovered a strong correlation between childhood abuse and subsequent adult diseases, including diabetes, obesity, depression, hepatitis, alcoholism, heart disease, fractures, and suicides. Last year, CASA therapists provided 400 individual therapy sessions for minor victims of sexual assault or sexual abuse through our Rape Crisis Program. CASA therapists also provided 608 individual therapy sessions for child victims of sexual abuse and or physical abuse in our Child Abuse Treatment Program. There were 70 new clients in our Child Abuse Treatment Program. Of these, 53 or 76% were females, and 17 or 20% were males. In 2018, we also began providing a well-attended weekly support group for children who are victims of abuse using art therapy. Last year, we received referrals for 66 victims of child abuse from the Riverside County Child Assessment Team, and we're currently working with 2 minors who are victims of human trafficking. Additionally, 100% of our human trafficking clients, that's adults and minors, were sexually abused as children. And we serve many, many adults. And in 2018, we provided 1,000 individual therapy sessions for adults. And of our adult clients, 96% of them were molested as children. So it's Child Abuse Prevention Month. What can we do? Well, here are some things that can be done. First of all, remember the 5 R's. Raise the issue. Educate people who do not realize the scope of the problem. Reach out to kids and parents in your community. Be a good neighbor. Offer to babysit. Donate your children's clothing or toys or used furnishings, or for some of us, our grandchildren's used clothing and toys and furnishings to another family. Be kind and supportive, especially to new parents and children. Remember the risk factors. Although child abuse and neglect occur in all segments of society, there are risk factors with families. They're greater with families where parents are addicted to alcohol or drugs, are isolated from their own extended families and communities, have difficulty controlling their anger or stress, appear uninterested in the care, nourishment, or safety of their children, or seem to be having serious economic, housing, or personal problems. And then recognize the warning signs: nervousness around adults, aggression towards adults and other children, inability to stay awake or concentrate for extended periods, sudden dramatic changes in personality or activities, acting out sexually or showing interest in sex that is not appropriate for their age, frequent or unexplained bruises or injuries, wearing inappropriate clothing for the weather, wearing long sleeves during the summer, low self-esteem, and poor hygiene. And finally, report suspected abuse and neglect. Contact Child Protective Services or our law enforcement agencies. Provide them the child's name, an address if you have it, or the child's school if you have it, the suspected abuser if you know it, and a description of what you've seen or heard, the names of any other people having knowledge of the abuse, and your name and phone number. And just remember, we all have a role to play in building strong communities in which families and children are valued and supported. Thank you.
Thank you, Gail.
Thank you, Gail. Some staggering statistics, and it's our pleasure to work with her advocates and with Gail herself, who's obviously very passionate about that. So I will answer any questions, but the recommendation that I bring before you is to recognize and declare support for National Crime Victims Week, which is April 7th through the 13th, 2019. And just as a reminder again, on the 10th, there's a candlelight vigil in Palm Desert, and on the 11th, it will be in Riverside.
Thank you very much. Does council have anything to add?
I just have a comment. Thanks, Chief, for bringing this. I think it's important that we remember the victim, because today, in today's political environment, the focus seems to be on the criminal and having criminals get away with things as we create more laws that protect them. So I think it's important that we recognize that the victim needs to be remembered.
I agree.
I'd also like to thank Chief for bringing this and putting it on the agenda. And Gail, thank you so much for participating in this and sharing that information. It's so important that, and it wasn't that long ago in our lifetimes where these kinds of services and resources were absolutely non-existent for victims. And unfortunately, police would be called to scenes and they'd take the reports and initiate the investigation, and the victim was pretty much left on their own to deal with the trauma. And so it's very gratifying to see the evolution of services and the expansion of your role in CASA. So thank you very much.
And although those numbers were extremely staggering, we know that that's not even probably close to what it truly is. And so it is important that we do recognize the victims of on all the levels that we see from on a daily basis. So thank you, Chief. Thank you for bringing it to the Chief, Russ, and thank you, Dale. Thanks, Chief. Oh, so we need to have a motion. Okay, please vote. That passes 5-0, recognizing and declaring support for the National Crime Victims Week, April 7th through the 13th, 2019. Okay, communications from the public. Anyone who wishes to address the council should have submitted a request form to the city clerk. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes in consideration of others who are here for agenda items. Please come forward to the lectern when your name is called. When you're recognized, proceed with your comments. As you know, state law prohibits the city council from discussing any item not on the agenda except for brief responses and statements made or questions posed to the public, by the public. In addition, we may ask a question for clarification, provide a reference to staff or other resources for factual information, or if necessary, request staff to report back at a subsequent meeting. Sarah, do we have anybody wishing to speak?
We do. Your first speaker will be Maureen McDonald, and she'll have 6 minutes. She'll be followed by Sue Savage, who will have 6 minutes.
Thank you. Marie.
Good evening, Mayor and other council members. I haven't been here for a little while, so I'm making up for it. So I hope you'll be patient with me. Regarding the termination of Alan Parker as Hemet City Manager, this action was not a witch hunt, nor a vendetta, but the result of Alan Parker not doing his job. The facts are, after presenting the great idea over a year ago that Hemet should be developed as a hub for all of the outdoor activities in the Hemet area, the Hemet City Council instructed Alan to provide a long-term strategic plan with the necessary vision to bring this idea to fruition. However, Alan did not submit anything. No vision, no plan, no execution. 16 months wasted. Because no new revenue had been developed, Alan attempted to balance the budget by using Measure U funds, which is in direct conflict to the will of the people. Although community response to the first issue of the Hemet newsletter was positive, Allen did not develop any further issues, although the community and the Hemet City department heads were in full support of a newsletter to educate the citizens on what the city was doing. After Allen failed to issue a contract between Citywide, Valleywide, and the city of Hemet, the community lost the Simpson Center at times as an activity and meeting place. Allen did not hold a meeting with the state auditor to establish procedures by which the state would be comfortable with Hemet's control and reporting of the city's financial status. Allen did not hold regular and frequent meetings with each city department head to discuss priorities and accomplishments or lack thereof. He did not hold council planning sessions to discuss 5-year capital improvement plans. He did not address how to meet the needs of the Hemet City departments in spite of the publicized frustration of various Hemet department heads. He did not address the inadequacy of the Hemet engineering department in spite of expressed concern by various Hemet department heads. And despite requests from the Hemet City Council members, Allen did not schedule any meetings on future agenda item lists over the past year. The biggest question for everyone, in spite of what everyone knew, was why 2 of our council members said he should continue as city manager when he clearly had no interest in Hemet. His interest was only collecting a paycheck for not doing his job. And I signed this, Marie McDonald, a Hemet concerned citizen who wants Hemet citizens to know the facts. And that's after the publication of a lot of diatribes and false information in the Valley Chronicle. That paper's issue is what got me going on this, because the public needs to know why he was let go. The other subject, how's my time? Oh, good. So I'm not pushing it. Okay. I want to talk to you about the facts relevant to the median proposed by Caltrans. Either the city council or city personnel may have developed answers to some of my questions regarding the median, and if so, I, and I'm sure others, would very much appreciate having those answers. The review of the Hemet median can be divided into 3 categories: need, impact, and cost. To address the need, my first set of questions relate to the basis on which Caltrans claims that it was needed. What is the date? Question number 1. What is the date of the study which Caltrans uses as the basis for needing this median? Number 2, is it relevant to today's reality? 3, if the facts provided by the study still exist, are there any other means of addressing the safety problem without disrupting Hemet businesses? And number 4, if so, what are they? To address the impact, what are the answers to these questions? Well, number 5, what will be the effect of the median on access to the local businesses affected by the median? Number 6, how many of these businesses will be able to maintain their position in the community of Hemet?
Your time is up. Can you just finish up with your last sentence here?
Oh, is that 6 minutes? Oh, well, I've left I have copies for you of all of it, so.
Hand them over to Sarah. Yeah.
Okay. Next speaker, did you say?
It's Sue Savage, she'll have 6 minutes, and then she'll be followed by Mary Ann Darrowin, who will have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and distinguished council members. Congratulations are in order. Mayor Bonnie Wright and City Council members have done something that has not been accomplished in 13 years. City Council passed a motion to remove the certificate of deposit from the Bank of Hemet. This is a first City Council that has obeyed the law regarding safety and the yield of Hemet taxpayer dollars. Congratulations to all of you. Thank you from the taxpayers. Congratulations also go to City Manager Mr. Lopez, acting interim city manager. Comments regarding the salary of Hemet's deputy manager versus assistant manager are in no way meant to disparage the capabilities of Mr. Lopez. I'm going to make some comments, and they're not to disparage you in whatsoever. Obviously, you are very well thought of by City Council. I am, however, speaking as a taxpayer who pays the bills. Last year at this time, the city did not even have a deputy manager. All we could afford was a city manager. This year, we do not have a city manager. Instead, we have an interim manager with a 5-year assistant manager job waiting for him. There is a 27% pay increase going from deputy manager to the newly created position of assistant manager. Congratulations, Mr. Lopez. $40,000 a year is a nice pay increase. What the taxpayers get is a $180,000 bill for the new assistant city manager position. We could not afford that last year. With a reported $1 million deficit this year, it seems we can't afford it this year either. How is the city going to afford their newly created assistant city manager position? And then I'd like to make a comment to Marie. I sat here and listened to these guys go item by item through every single future agenda item to see what was appropriate on the agenda. So I was at the meeting when you said that those things...
You have to address the council, not members of the public.
You're right. I was here when I watched you guys go through every single item, which was important to you guys, to what you wanted to continue to discuss, okay? And I've got to admit that there are people who seem to know more about the city of Hemet than I do. I thought I knew something, but obviously I don't. So anyway, I want to thank you for your time. My name is Sue Savage, and congratulations again.
Thank you.
Good evening, Hemet City Council. I had a speech all printed out. However, after Marie spoke, and you know I hold you in high regard, I would like to know how she knew all that information. I've been to every almost city council meeting for the last 2 years, and I've listened to all of you speak. And how she has gone to every department head and asked them questions, and how she knew the information that she knows tonight that she just read off, I'm amazed. I really am. Is there something out there that we don't know, that the actual public doesn't know? Because like I said, I've been here for every single meeting. And I also did hear last year when Alan was here and he was going to promote outdoor activities and Diamond Valley Lake and how we should use all that. And I know that I had spoken to Linda when I first moved into Hemet and how she was on the board and talking to Hemet Valley Lake and trying to get all of that going. And so I wasn't surprised when that issue came up. But I am surprised, shocked really, that Marie would know all of this information that she read off tonight when I have also sat through all of these meetings and listened to everything that all of you have said and what the city manager had said, and I couldn't come up with half of that information. And I've been doing my research. I really have, and I've been watching, and I've been talking about subjects that are of interest to the Hemet citizens. And I'm sure that a lot of you have also read them. It's been public knowledge. Hemet residents aren't happy with what's been going on. And now we all of a sudden have all these restaurants popping up all of a sudden. We're in a growth spurt. How did that happen? In 2 weeks? Why have we not been told this all along? So we can all build up all this anger and all this resentment towards the city and the city council when all of this has been in play. And we could have known and helped. I'm one of those volunteers. I volunteer all over this city. Anytime I can. Even the Ramona Bowl, I'm volunteering. So I am one of those people that are involved in this city, and I do pay attention to what's going on. And it would be really helpful if you were a little more transparent and just gave us a little bit more information. Because information is power, and we're out here to really help him it, not hinder it. And so if you could possibly help us to help you, it would do nothing but help Hemet. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Ann. Okay. Now we go on to city council reports. Councilmember Krupa.
You want me to drag this out? Okay. Going down the list, RCTC is tomorrow. Update on the Ramona Bowl Association. The fourth grade performance is on Thursday morning, and opening day is Saturday the 13th. League of Cities, our next general meeting will be May 13th out in the Living Desert in Palm Desert. So that should be, optional tours are going to be available. And on the League of Cities, a couple updates that have come out on legislation. One of them that you've probably heard about is the lawsuit that local government, one county and several cities, I think 25 cities, has filed against the state of California on the cannabis delivery regulations that they're saying undermines local control enacted by the voters who passed Proposition 64. The city of Riverside and the city of Temecula locally are involved in that, and I believe an invitation is going out to all other cities that if they want to sign on in some aspect of this, because it goes completely contrary to what is written in Proposition 64 on local control of cannabis. The other is that through Governor Newsom's address in saying that he wants to tie SB1 transportation funds to California housing and to withhold funding if cities do not meet their housing mandates. It has been, it was presented as a bill, AB 1568 by McCarty. The good news about that is that the League immediately opposed it, and the bill was pulled from the Assembly Housing Committee, and amendments are going to be coming forth. Exactly what those amendments are, nobody knows at this point, but the League has taken a very strong opposition to this because one of the things it should not be doing is withholding SB1 funding for streets and road improvements from the cities. So those are two things there, and then I just want to end with a letter that I received this past week from a couple residents, Mr. and Mrs. Morris, and they had an issue with a very tall, 70-foot plus pine tree that was in the city right-of-way and leaning towards their home. And with the winds that we had been having, they were really afraid it would topple on their house. So they wrote a letter and saying they would like to commend the City of Hemet crews for a job well done pertaining to the removal of a 70-foot-plus pine tree and the removal and replacement of the damaged sidewalk, parkway, curb, gutter, and portions of the street. They named the crews Joaquin, Paul, Martinez, Josh, and Tony, and asked that a copy of the letter with their thanks and gratitude be placed in their files. So I have given a copy of this letter to City Manager and also to Public Works Department, and asked that it could be placed in their file, because it is, I know we used to come out with good things every so often about when we hear good things about employees being out in the public and doing an exemplary job, and this is part of it. So congratulations to the tree crew and street crew and everybody else that worked on this project. It's appreciated by the residents. And that's it.
Councilmember Meyer?
All right. The Parks Commission, am I still on that?
We want you to be.
I don't think I'm on that. We need to take it off. I mean, tonight we had the Library Commission and Linda got up and spoke, and if I was on the Parks Commission, I would have helped you with the Arbor Day celebration, so we don't need to fake it. I need to be off of there. I need to be off. The second thing is our CHCA. We are working on we've actually hired engineers and a planning design group that's going to be developing the Steel Peak Reserve, and that's in the Good Hope area in the city of Paris. So there's about 250 acres of RCHCA land, and it's for the kangaroo rat. And they're going to look at putting trails through there so that we can enjoy what they're enjoying. So I like to see that kind of stuff because so much is roped off, and we can move forward with this. So they are planning this. I don't have a date that it's going to be done. It's still in the early stages, but they are getting together the concept design, and it's exciting, and it's close to us. So, and then our investment meeting is going to be April 15th at 1 o'clock. That's at City Hall.
Okay. Councilmember Purcell?
Yes, so first I'll go over the short one. Monday was RCA, and the species of the month is the bobcat. So we do have bobcats in our hills, so be aware, but that is the species of the month. Moving on, at the League of Cities on Friday the 29th, I am on revenue and taxation, and all the state is doing and our illustrious elected officials in Sacramento are doing is looking at ways to raise revenue by way of tax. So the governor has put out a very aggressive housing bill or housing push. So there are, sorry about that, a page full of housing bills. And some of my notes in here for one of them in particular is one that Councilmember Krupa touched on, AB 1568, which deals with the housing elements and production report withholding of transportation funding. And the note that I put on here is cities do not produce houses. So we're going to be held, the state is looking at withholding money from cities when they fail to produce housing, but cities don't produce housing. So news at 11 on that. But a handful of bills related to raising revenue via taxation. So that was a big portion of it. There was conversation about Proposition 5, which was on the last ballot, which failed, which was the housing portability. There was a little bit of discussion about that. There will be talk is that they're looking at putting a bill in front of the governor that will address that. But on the other side of that is that the conversation then turned to Proposition 13 and how their legislators are looking at how they can dismantle Proposition 13. And it's going to start with a split roll, and they're going to go after commercial. So they're looking at that. Part of the discussion at this meeting was how cities and counties are losing out on money when somebody dies and the property then passes to their heir. One of the comments that I made to this committee was that typically people that have higher end homes or more expensive homes have their properties in a trust. When the trustee of a trust passes, the property doesn't change hands. The property stays within the trust. So I pointed that out to people that the property isn't changing hands. When the trustee dies, it passes along to the successor trustee. So I had to remind them of that this isn't money that they're losing out on in the first place. So they're looking at ways to go after that. So just be aware. And then there was also talk about the CAL FIRE versus CalPERS. So there was a whole presentation on that, about that case. So that's all I have.
Mayor Pro Tem Brown.
It'll be interesting to see how much housing the bullet train produces. Okay. Couple of things. Water Master Board meeting is still pending. It's not calendared yet. And under the topic of Disaster Planning Commission, I think we need to probably remove that one because that one is, I think the council decided to abolish that, so we can probably take that one off. And traffic and parking, I think, is pending being blended. So I'll wait for that to get reconstituted. The WRCOG and WCE meetings are both tomorrow, and I'm an alternate, and our mayor has informed me that she will be attending that, so I won't be there for that. I do want to share that our fire chief has provided some copies of the HFD Responder, which is volume 1 of their informational newsletter, and I'll leave copies up here on the table if anyone would like to pick it up. Kind of gives an overview of what they're doing and what their leadership staff has been doing, and information about some incidents that have occurred fairly recently. So thank you for that, Chief Brown, and appreciate that. I'd also like to share that Linda Krupp and I had the opportunity on Sunday to attend the Gift of Life tribute, which was the 10-gallon donor celebration hosted by Livestream. And what we received on behalf of the city was this very nice award for Humanitarian of the Year award. So the city got that recognition, and it was quite an event to see all the different individuals and organizations that participate. I really had an eye-opening experience to see just how robust the Livestream program is. It's more than just donating blood. And we had a chance to hear from some actual donor recipients who, quite frankly, are alive today because of the generous donations. And probably most noteworthy, towards the end of the evening, they were acknowledging all of the regular donors. And the top award was a donor who had given 152 gallons of blood over his period of time that he's been donating. And he didn't look the least bit anemic. It was amazing. And I'd also just like to give a shout out to our Public Works Department. Driving around the city, I'm seeing evidence of some pothole repairs that obviously were delayed because of all of the rain that we're having, but it's nice to see the evidence of some work being done and some improvements. There were some really nasty ones out there, and I'm sure everybody's suspension is appreciative of those being taken care of. So hopefully when we get more SB1 funds, we'll be seeing more of that.
That's right.
And that's it for me.
And thank you for attending that for me. Yeah. Award ceremony. Planning Commission, it's kind of a light agenda, just megabytes asking for CUP to add music and extended hours to that business. General plan amendments for the Hemet Ryan land use and 79 alignment were also discussed. A couple of us did attend the reverse drawing, the chamber reverse drawing, which is always a good event and certainly goes for a good cause. Western Riverside Council of Governments, we had a TUMF update and fee comparison update, and noted that Riverside County's fees are actually very moderate compared to San Bernardino. So that was quite surprising. I thought Coachella Valley would be a little bit more on the higher end, but actually San Bernardino is, so I was quite surprised by that. Southern California Association of Governments, they're working through the regional Connect SoCal. It's a regional transportation plan for 2020 through 2045, and the regional mobility study, which will address challenges, opportunities, and management. And Riverside County is expected to receive $11.5 million towards that plan. Western Community Energy Board is tomorrow. Homeless Task Force, last month we were supposed to have the report by Mr. Webster, but because of the personnel issues in the budget, I had to, hopefully, I'm meeting with Mr. Webster this week to discuss to see if he can come out at our next council meeting, so keep that in mind so we can get it on the agenda. The Skate Plaza Task Force will be having a community meeting on April 24th at the library, so those have been very well attended in the past. We look for all your input. It's important to the community and to the youth of the community, so we ask for everybody's input on that. And that's all I have. Next is the ad hoc committee's report, and I think the city interim city manager will be covering the Florida Avenue 74 and the scheduling of a meeting. CBG ad hoc committee, Percival and Brown, you're done, so we need to remove that off.
You take that off because
Yeah.
we acted on that last week.
Right. Budget ad hoc committee. Our next meeting is April 22nd. And now we ask the interim city manager, Mr. Lopez, to give his report.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Just a few items of note. The first item that I will cover, it's not in necessarily order, but ticket distribution policy. The City of Hemet received 600 vouchers from the Ramona Bowl Association, so the vouchers are redeemable for seats at the Ramona pageant on April 13th, 14th, 27th, or 28th, May 4th, and May 5th. We've put forward what we will be moving forward on in the distribution of the tickets, and I'll just provide that as informational purposes for the council. 100 vouchers will be given to each council member to distribute to businesses and or individuals for the purpose of increasing awareness of the City of Hemet and the recreational entertainment amenities it offers. And 2, 100 vouchers will be offered to city employees on a first-come, first-served basis with a maximum of 4 per employee for the purpose of increasing city employee participation within the community. So I believe we have copies of the memo for the council so that they can see it, as well as for the employees as well. So we'll go ahead and forward that to you as well. I believe Sarah has tickets as well, so if you're interested in picking up your tickets, Sarah does have those. I respectfully ask that we create a special events ad hoc committee and appoint 2 council members there. There is no, commitment in terms of a mandatory distribution of any of special event funding for the city of Hemet, but we could explore that. So I'm asking that we appoint 2 council members to that ad hoc committee. So I'll defer to the mayor.
Is anyone interested in being on that committee? Okay. Do I have another? I like to. Yeah, I've been on it a lot for many years, so I want to give somebody else a chance. So, do we have Michael and Carly? Okay, great. Michael and Carly.
Okay, and then the last item I have is the engineering team, as well as some of our other departments, are in the process of coordinating a meeting with Caltrans to get an update on their project rollout, and we will fold in the Florida Avenue Median Ad Hoc Committee members when that meeting is scheduled and coordinated, so we will all keep you apprised as we get information our way. That's all. Thank you, Mayor.
Are there any future agenda items?
I don't have a future agenda item, but I would like to ask that we remove Healthier Communities Initiative. I'm kind of working in the background with Miguel to see whether or not it's still relevant with everything else that's going on. So I'd just like to request that we remove that until a later time.
Let's bring it back on. Anyone else?
Do we need to vote on that like we did last time to remove them? No?
What did you say?
Okay. Well, we did last time. We voted to put them on.
I recommend that you vote to add them and you vote to take them off. That way it's clear and we have some deliberative process.
Then I would make a motion to remove Healthier Communities Initiative.
Have a second?
Second.
Oh. That passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Yes, I'd like to, if we could, get an update from police and fire on our plan of action for the Measure U, and get a status on that, and if we need to look at any types of adjustments to that plan as we've made it into year 3 now of that plan moving forward.
I'll second that.
Okay, please vote. Alrighty, and I don't believe we have any continued closed session items, so we'll go on to adjournment. We'll adjourn to April 23rd, 2019 at 7 p.m. Thank you for coming.